Hello again, my valued listeners, and welcome back. It is I, the great, to my friends, Bard Mordecai, eternally at your service to enthrall you again with my lyrical lute and vivacious verses. And yes, I do tell stories as well. Hmm. Before we get back to our tale, there's a few short messages I have to deliver to you all, which I have to do so I can pay off a little from my bar tab. Now, where's that paper? Ah, here it is. Rowan Balthus and Sons, purveyors of fresh bread and pastries, invite you all to come to our newly established establishment located at the Merchant's Quarter. Our products only use the finest flour and ingredients, providing you true bread for true adventurers. And finally, if you want to support us, please give us a like, share, and perhaps subscribe to our channel to help make us grow and bring you more stories. Here are the links below. I don't know what that last part means, but the barkeep insisted me to say that, so there. With all that away, let's get back to our story of Karn and his excavations into the mysterious and fascinating caves of Koilos. So, without further ado, atop the papers and small artifacts, he saw Joyra's letters scattered, opened but unanswered. Karn, it's been months, one letter began. Don't you think you should examine why you're doing this? Another letter ended. Mirrodin wasn't your fault, she wrote in another. Please come back. Venser would have. Karn shifted the artifact onto one palm and used the other hand to shove Joyra's letters to one side. He slid the artifact onto the worktop, then ducked under the table. He'd concealed the Silex in a small titanium chest, its lock only accessible to someone like him, someone who both knew the order in which the tumblers and pins needed to be lifted and could manipulate inorganic materials. His lock had no key. He placed his hand on the chest, focused, and felt the tumblers move. The lid popped open. He removed the Silex. Even his specialized senses could not identify its copper-like material. Normally, he could reveal any inorganic object's mystery with a touch. Not so the Silex. It made his palms itch with its strangeness. A Thran artifact, most said. But he had his doubts. It was Karn's belief that this device came from further fields than simply the past. He lifted its wide goblet body onto his desk. Its inky characters seemed to move under his worktop's light, transforming from Thran to Falaji to Sumifan. The vessel's wide bowl-like mouth seemed to call to be filled with, according to the Sumifan, the memories of the land. He'd been reluctant to test it without confirmation on how to use it. The Silex sent a jolt through him. Karn flinched and withdrew his hand, cradling it against his body. Once, when he'd been new, he'd reached out and touched the fire blazing in Urza's hearth. He dropped the cherry-red coal, shocked by the sensation, then examined his hand for damage. He'd found none. He'd looked up to see Urza watching him with glittering eyes. Urza hadn't tried to stop him, yet he'd known this would hurt Karn.
Why did you give me intelligence if you do not value my personhood?
Karn had felt ashamed the moment he'd asked the question, and yes, Urza had chuckled. You're more valuable to me if you can react intelligently. Karn had stared at his aching, undamaged hand.
Then why give me pain?
Urza had smiled and stroked his white beard. Karn had later learned how to recognize that expression as one Urza made when he thought he was being particularly clever. People are more reluctant to damage something if it causes that thing pain. But that was only true of some people, wasn't it? Karn glanced at Joyra's unanswered letters. He did not dare involve Joyra or the other planeswalkers, lest he lose them to the Phyrexians like he'd lost Venser. Even after Memnarch renamed it, Karn still thought of that plane by its first name, Argentum. It had been Argentum to him when he'd created it in its smallest wonders. How beautiful it had been. A plane glimmering with mathematical precision. The Phyrexians had taken it from him. His plane, his children, Memnarch, his creation. And all of it was his fault. He grabbed a rag from a nearby pile to wipe the condensation from his body. He didn't want to drip on his new unfired find, and dropped the rag back into the heap. He bent to study the silex, comparing its symbols to those in the clay tablet. The pattern changed right where the clay's tablet's edge seemed rougher, broken. Had he forgotten a piece? He needed to go back for it. Now. Since he'd opened the cavern to the cave's moisture, the artifacts in it would degrade. Just then, the death rattle of another excavator echoed through the caverns. Karn wished he could sigh, but as it was, he locked away the silex and his most recent find. He'd repaired the excavator. It was located near the ancient workshop anyway, and then he'd look for the missing piece. And that's all for now. I'm really sorry, my friends, for keeping you hanging, but the barkeep is now signaling to me that he will choke my neck if I don't start playing the music here in his tavern. But tell you what, you come back here tomorrow, and I'll be sure to continue this story. Until then, my name is Mordecai, the Solemn Bard. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.